There's someone else.
We have some people coming in.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I know we'll have a few more join in the next few minutes, but we'll get started since it's about 6:05. I'm Becky Highfill. I'm the director of the Center for Learning and Innovation at the hospital. And Noelle, my trusty sidekick, helps with educational programs and this year has helped me coordinate the hospital week activities around art and health. So thanks everyone for joining.
We should have tried that.
We're pleased to have Wild at Art help us this year with our art and healing program. If you've seen the tiles that people have painted or that I've emailed out about and the bowls that are in the library, all of that's come from Wild at Art, and they've been just great partners to work with this year. And then all the supplies for tonight's activity have come from them. So we are excited to get started on this canvas painting. I'm going to let you guys all know up front, I've never done this before. So my husband was kind of shocked that I'm actually going to paint. So we'll see how it all turns out. I'd like to introduce Donald and Joan from Wild at Art. They're going to lead us through this painting this evening, and so I guess I'll just turn it over to you guys and we'll get started.
All right, Becky. Yes, and everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction, and maybe even more importantly, thank you for inviting us to participate in the hospital's Heart of the Community activities this week. We were flattered to be asked and to be involved in the ways we have been, and thank you for allowing us to join the fun and to contribute to the fun. I'm not a doctor, I just play one on Zoom. This is a smock. I encourage all of you to have something like your old beater sweatshirt or something like that you can wear, because acrylic paint and your clothing are not best friends. So I'll tell you that up front before I actually get into the actual painting, that you might run and get a smock. And it's not a bad idea while you're up, if you're getting up, is to grab a hair dryer, because we're going to work on the background first and let that dry. And then we're going to do foreground elements. And, this is not oil, like oil that takes forever to dry, but we don't want to wait 40 minutes for our background to dry before we do our foreground elements. So grab a hair dryer, and if there's 2 or 3 or 4 of you painting and you have more than one hair dryer, grab that. This is a group effort here. Joan is right there. I just hit her with a paintbrush. She's waving. She's going to kind of keep me on the straight and narrow here, to the best of her ability. And I will have to kind of cheat out occasionally as I kind of look at the camera, as I look at the canvas, because I'm actually going to paint this as well. And we do this all the time in our studio, where we'll have, believe it or not, like a WSU Moms Weekend, we'll have 50, 60 people in here painting an image, and we paint the image as well. So we're doing that while people are painting. So we've already painted this image multiple times. I'm gonna paint it again tonight. Everybody should have a template, a 9-panel template that shows you a sequence that just a series of photos. Thank you, Becky, for holding that up. Just a series of photos that we took when we painted. Let me lean away and bring this in closer in so you can see that. Okay, but so keep an eye on this, because I have 4 of these and I just want you to see the variety. And what I'm trying to do is impress upon you that we don't need a replica of this. we don't need a carbon copy of this. We're encouraging you to do your own thing. And that means this could be a red background and these could be blue flowers. These could be yellow flowers. These could be red and orange and yellow. Okay, that's part of the beauty of an activity like this. We actually like to call it going rogue. But what it really is an invitation for you to take the opportunity to say, I like what they did, but I've got a different idea and I'm going to tweak it this way, or quite frankly, I'm going to paint a lighthouse. I don't need to paint this. I'm going to paint a lighthouse. And we urge you to do that, to consider that. If you need anybody's permission, you have ours. Just have fun. So there's one of the four. A lot of light blue in here. Okay, a lot of light blue.
We've got some other painters showing up.
We've got, this is a little darker version. Okay, again, Joan and I have painted this multiple times, a little darker version. Okay.
The color's not great.
Yeah. Another version, and I'm not saying you necessarily can see all the nuances here, but if you were here looking at these canvases, you would see like, oh yeah, they're all different. I mean, obviously there's very shared elements, but they're different. And
Especially the bottom.
especially the bottom. And then lastly, okay, I think this is Joan's favorite. Am I remembering that correctly or not? I have to remember to hold this in such a way that it's not picking up glare. Is that okay like that?
So
Okay.
what I like to point out is the difference between, the backgrounds. If you look at the bottom of this one, it's much denser. And you can kind of see some light elements, dark elements, which gives it a little bit more depth. Oh,
Right.
we gotta mute. And then the other one is more like sponge on, so it's
Right. And Joan was kind of referring to this. You can see that it's not very dense at all. But it's very active, and to my eye, it's very active and very dynamic. What I like about the one that Joan prefers is that I think this really communicates a sense of depth. It's like you're looking into a garden or a forest. And really, this is kind of a mashup. I mean, if you look at call them stems, call them strings, but this really is kind of a mashup of hearts, balloons, and flowers. So, I mean, given just the nature of the kind of starting image, it really is an invitation for you to say, okay, balloons, flowers, hearts. Let me play with this. Let me play with this. So just to give you a sense of context for what we've done already and what we're going to do. Okay, so everybody has more or less the same brushes. And I say more or less in that I wasn't trying to make everything a carbon copy, but I know what I used when I painted these. So I made sure that everybody had that kind of brush. So I'm going to begin with this, what I call it a trim brush. It's 3/4 of an inch wide. Yours may be a little less wide, a little wider, doesn't much matter. But this is what I'm going to start with when I do my background. And my background is an artistic choice. I mean, if you look at your template, you can see a lot of vertical lines. If you look at that very first panel on the template, you can see that the entire thing was painted top to bottom, and it's darker on the bottom. I'm a righty, so I am going to start the upper left and paint left to right, and then paint top to bottom. I just find that that's the way that I do this best as a righty. Okay. I don't know how everybody has their canvas set on their easel, but this is a T-bar. Can you see the T-bar here? And that goes up and down. There's a little screw in the back to make that go up and down. I could lift this up and hang it on the T-bar. So now the bottom of my canvas is not touching here. So if I want to paint the very bottom, I've raised the T-bar so that I'm not going to have to worry about this sitting here on the bottom of the easel. I'm wondering how am I going to get that bottom painted? Okay. As we do this and we get into this, keep in mind that we paint edges as we go. So you can look at the edge of this canvas. I just grabbed one, and you can see that I painted the edges as you go along. So when you have whatever background color you're doing, whatever kind of blue, and I will kind of, some of you will do a pink background, some might do a green background, but which is fine, but I'm going to kind of stick with the template. So I'm going to talk about painting something that's in the blue range of colors, of hues. Okay, so I'm going to paint left to right, top to bottom. If you like a turquoisey color, and Joan was talking about, if you like a turquoisey color, what you want to do is you want to get blue and white and green near each other, but not touching each other. So I might have some here, here, and here, and I would pull the blue and white into the center or off to the side, depending. What you want to do is have a neutral space where you do your mixing, and then you can bring a little bit of green in on your brush and mix that. And you could say, ooh, that's perfect. That's perfect. I got lucky. The first effort was perfect. Then that's what you're going to do. You're going to mix in that kind of proportion. If you look at it and you say, oh, that's too blue, pull a little more white in, pull a little more green in. So you get to adjust. But what you don't want to do is put paint on top of paint. You want to have paint nearby, and then you pull them into a neutral third space where you, or fourth space in this particular case, if you're trying to get a turquoisey kind of thing. Okay, so I don't want to talk this to death, and I want to paint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some blue and green and white on my plate. And if you haven't done this before, as Becky indicated, she hasn't, it's probably pretty easy to pour the wrong amount of paint. So start out with maybe something the size of a silver dollar, and go from there. You can always add paint as you need it. If you need more, you can mix more. Okay.
More white. than
But
anything
there's
else.
going to be more white than anything else. Okay. More white than anything else. So maybe you've got a silver dollar and a half size of white, and the blue and is more like a quarter, and the green is more like a dime, because you're not going to need a lot of green. In any case, this is a very forgiving paint. So you get to say, like, wait a second, that's too blue. Then you add white and you add a little green. So play with it, mix some paints. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to turn away from the camera for a moment while I mix paints, and then I'm going to start painting. Okay, let's go.
I'm gonna say something.
Yeah, do it.
At the risk of having a lot of echo, I wanted to just say, if you can't see the chat, I want to make sure everybody knows if you have questions, you can either call them out or write them in the chat.
I haven't pulled any green into that yet. I'm just mixing blue and white, and I had a lot more white than blue. Now let's pull a little green in. Just a little
I
bit.
can't see it because your hand's over it.
Oh, can't see it because my hand's over it. See, it takes a village, or at least two of us, to do this. Mix, 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 mix. I'm gonna add more green in there. More green in there yet. I'm getting some on my thumb. I'm gonna put all that green in because I only had a small amount. Okay. If you look at the first panel, upper left panel of your 9-panel template, you can see the vertical lines there. And I think that was by intent. Those brush strokes give you a sense of movement, of it's dynamic versus that just being a flat background. So that's what I'm going to endeavor to get to, because if you look at all the steps and the final steps, you'll notice that it does not go all the way to the top in terms of the roses. Okay. The flowers, I shouldn't call them roses necessarily, but the flowers don't go all the way to the top. So you are going to have a reveal. Okay. So I like that color. And because I like it, and because I'm not trying to get any given color, it's like, oh, I like that one, I'm going to start painting. So here we go. This is what I like to do. This is what I like to do is that I often will just take this silly thing off. It's sitting on my lap right now because I have my lab coat on, my smock, and I'm really, by holding it like this, I'm really able to work the paint into the nap of the canvas. I can really work it in there. And you can stand up and hold it. Oftentimes I like to stand up. I'm not going to do that now because I'm on camera, and if I stand up, you're going to be looking at my belt, which we don't need to see. We want to be doing this, okay? I'm just working it into the canvas, back and forth, back and forth. You don't want it drippy, because remember, this is a background that has to dry before we get foreground elements in. What was that, honey?
You could add a little.
You could add a little dab of water to the brush, and hope that everybody has, shame on me, everybody's got a paint rag they've got a cup for rinsing a brush, and you've got a paint rag for squeezing the water out of your brush. And I will tell you this, drippy brushes are the bane of a painter's existence. You do not want a drippy brush, because you think, oh, what's a little runny spot down there? It is the hardest thing to kind of mask. It's just the hardest thing to repair is when you get a drip running down here. So really squeeze that water out of the brush.
Can you see this family action going on here?
No, I can't see it. Oh yeah, there we go. Annette. Hi, Annette.
No, up here, Michelle's group. There's a whole family.
Okay.
Hello.
The family that paints together.
Stays together, hopefully.
Yeah, there we go. I'm working this in, and I'm doing something, what they say, do as I do, not as I say. It's like what I'm doing now is literally just getting a uniform background, and you don't see any of that vertical stuff that I talked about. And I'm going to fix that, because I'm going to add that once I get this kind of worked in. Okay. Well, like I said in the first panel, you can see that it looks like there's movement. I'm gonna get some plain blue that I'm gonna work in there. Okay, I'm gonna hang this up here now because I don't have any place else to hold the canvas anymore. Okay, excuse my back. Joe's gonna tell you a joke or do a song and dance or something while I'm doing this.
I don't think I can do that because it's too echoey.
Okay.
Well, you tell me if it's echoey out there.
Okay.
You know what? We don't actually need yours.
Okay.
Remember, this is just the background, and it doesn't have to be perfectly even. It's sky, it's background.
Okay. Yes, as Joan just said, Check you out, Becky. Perfect. Bang. All right. Little tiny, teeny, tiny bit of blue, just right out of the bottle. Okay, that's because I'm going to make some vertical elements. I'm just going to play with it. I'm going to get a little on my brush and I'm just going to play with it because I know this is a very forgiving paint. Oh yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. That gives me something dynamic up there. I don't know if you can see that, but I think that adds a little bit of depth. And is a little more dynamic, obviously, than just the uniform light blue. And I'm gonna add, I want more of that. So I'm gonna add a little bit more blue in there. Not a lot. I don't need to rinse my brush.
You could even add some white clouds.
Okay. I think it's my belief that symmetry is not your friend when you're doing this kind of thing. We're not trying to make every line look like the next line. We're not going to try to make every heart the same size as every other heart. We're not going to make every dab or daub look identical. So I would say that asymmetry is our friend in terms of, I don't want it to look uniform. I don't want it to look symmetrical because very little in the natural world is. So I want it to look a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse this guy off because I've got lots of paint on it. And I've got my handy dandy water container here. I'm going to get it really, really, really rinsed up. I'm banging it against the bottom of the container here to really squeeze the paint out of it. Really doing that, squeezing that out. And now I've got my paint rag, and I'm doing this all because I'm going to get some white in there. I like Joan's idea of getting some white in there.
Is this a different we're using?
What? Say again.
This is a new color we're adding in the vertical or horizontal?
That's in the vertical. I wanted some variety. If you look at the upper left panel of your template, you can see that there's some vertical lines in there in the background. So that all I'm doing is just, I've taken some unmixed blue and put it in there.
Okay.
Just to get things more interesting and less uniform.
Thank you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't, you don't need a lot of paint. We're just trying to add some interest. And I've got a little bit of white now, and I'm going to do the same thing with white. And I'm not going to put much on. But I just
really light touch.
Very light touch. I'm not working this into the canvas like I did this color. Just a little bit. Just a, yeah.
You got paint all over the floor.
Yeah.
Yes, but I also want to put this closer. It's just too
Okay.
early.
And I have to tell you that I am not trying to replicate exactly the template that you have. Because as I showed you, we've got 4 different images here that we've painted and they all look a little bit different. So this one's going to look a little bit different because I don't want to keep painting the same thing. I want to paint, variations on the theme. And what I've done here is I've gotten some unmixed white and some unmixed blue, just vertical in there, knowing that some of that at the top is going to show because my red field, when I make my big red field at the top, I know it's not going to the tippy top. So I'm just added some interest in here, and you could do the same or not. you could take that all the way down to the bottom if you wanted, but I know what's gonna happen is I'm gonna start daubing on the bottom. And I don't really, I'm gonna mask whatever. If I were to put this all the way to the bottom, it's all gonna get masked by the foreground elements. Okay, Joan,
Better?
is that better in terms of lighting? Is that glary? Is that better? Anybody?
Looks good.
Okay,
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, it's better.
great, great. Okay. Well, we've done this dozens and dozens and dozens of times. So what we've learned, obviously, is that not everybody's going to proceed in the same way. Not everybody's going to paint the same thing, and not everybody's going to proceed at the same pace. So we try to strike a balance in terms of, not going too quickly, not going too slowly. The advantage that each of you have is that you have a sequence of images in front of you, and you can see, oh, I can jump into this next panel and the next and the next. You don't need my permission or guidance to do that. For all I know, you've got dinner reservations at 7:30 and you want to get this done and go eat somewhere. That's fine. This is being recorded, so that's going to make that a little easier. But let's take a look at the second panel. What I did on the second panel, you can see is that I added some black on the bottom and then on some unmixed blue, mostly unmixed blue. There might be a little black in here just to make that a little darker blue, so it's not as bold. And if you look closely at this, there are no brush strokes there. That is straight up daubing. I'm trying to decide whether the word is dab or daub. I think they both work. But there are no brush strokes there. So, and if you look at the next panel, of course, it's the same thing. There's no brush strokes there. What's been added in is just some little white accents, just for interest. You don't need to put them in there. You can make yours pink or white or yellow or not at all, but just some interesting accents just to kind of make this more interesting. So
Look like fireflies.
they look like fireflies. Yeah, somebody said that the last time we painted this. They look like lightning bugs. So everybody should have a second brush that's kind of like that. It may not look identical. It could be bushier, it could be wider, but you don't have to use the same brush, or you can. You can go to the sink and get running water on this and get this super, super clean. And then you can start with your foreground elements on the bottom, which I'm going to do. And I'm going to use the same brush because I've rinsed it out. I'm going to get black on my plate. Everybody should have 3 or 4 paper plates. And of course, if you run out of those, you can always use anything that you have. I suppose most people have paper plates around the house, or a piece of cardboard for that matter, in terms of like a mixing palette. So I'm not going to use a different plate. I'm going to use the same one because I don't mind the fact that there's going to be some blue with the black. In fact, I don't want just straight black. I want some blue with my black. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of that on my plate. And I'm going to start daubing. Kind of my brush is going to be perpendicular to the canvas. And I want the bristles to splay out. I'm not trying to hit it there and just have it be that point. I want them to splay out when I hit.
And these
Okay.
brushes, you can do that
And-
because they're kind of.
Yeah,
bigger
yeah.
brushes.
You can do that with these brushes. Okay, so Joan is watching comments. So if you've got some comments or questions or something like that, please put them in there.
For jokes.
Or jokes. I'm not going to put unmixed black paint on here. It's going to be too dark. So I'm going to get some black on my brush, and then I'm going to get it into my blue over here. And that's, I'm kind of experimenting with my color over here. I better not tilt this too far. It's going to run off onto the floor. I think that's okay. So I'm gonna start there. My canvas looks dry enough up here where I can actually grab it. So I'm gonna start doing this. And I realize that I want a little bit more blue in that.
And you can just put that on top, right?
Put blue on top?
Yeah.
Yep, I can do that. So I'm just daubing. Can you see that? I'm just daubing. And as I said earlier, we don't want uniform. You could even turn your brush every once in a while. Literally turning it in your hand. That's what I'm saying, because things will splay differently. Okay,
If they're doing this on their easel,
if you're doing it on your easel, grab a hold of it. Okay, get a hand on it.
it doesn't fall over.
What I'd said earlier about you know, acrylic paint and your clothing are not friends, that's true. This will wash off your hands, so don't worry about getting your hands a little painty. When you're all said and done tonight, some soap and water will take care of that. Okay, so I want more blue on top of that, and I'm gonna bring this up a little higher, come up here, I wanna come down here. You know, if you're looking at this saying like, what's he doing? What I'm doing is having fun and giving myself permission to not worry too much about exactly how that looks. I want some of the background color to come in. This looks asymmetrical. Nothing about that looks uniform. Now I'm gonna put my brush down, I'm gonna get some blue. Put that on my plate, and I'm gonna go over some of these spots. So now I'm getting, look at this. You see that okay? I'm filling in some of the empty space, but I don't want it all filled in, I'll tell you that. Can you hear that? That sounds like a drum. And okay. I'm gonna set that down and trust that. It's so hard because there's a laptop right here where Joan is monitoring things, and it's a nice big screen, and there's this little tiny image of myself on my phone. This is where I need to be looking at my phone. So my apologies for looking over there, because that's the big thing that catches my eye. So I'm going to rinse this brush, and I'm going to do some straight up blue in here. I'm just going to do some unmixed blue in here so that we get a sense of depth, as you can see in your third panel here. Actually, you can see it in your second panel. Okay. We're going to get some variety in terms of color. So I'm going to get some blue in there. And I'm going to go ahead and rinse this brush. All right. Please ask questions through chat or however else. Maybe Becky, you can unmute everybody on occasion and say if anybody has any questions, and unmute, and people can field questions, can actually ask their questions. Okay.
Where did you put the blue? I missed that part.
Where did I put the blue?
Yeah.
I started with the black, and then I put some blue. So we've got more or less black here without any blue on top of it. And then I put blue on top of black here, which changed that color. We've got some grays in here now. And now I'm going to put some unmixed blue in here, just a little bit, transition up, and then I'm going to stop and go to a few white dots after that, and then I'm gonna, that's it for the back. I'm gonna let the back drop. Okay. So I'm gonna get some plain blue now. Mixed. I'm staying away from the black. I'm trying not to even have these touch very much. I want to stay away from that initially. I want to. And then I'll kind of finish up by hitting that boundary. Okay. I've successfully managed to not get paint on myself yet, but there's quite a bit of it on the floor, and Joan is actually cleaning paint off the floor as we speak. Get my smock adjusted. Questions, anyone?
See, I should be able to make you be.
Right, but I'm not sure how you do that. I am almost to the point now where I'm going to, yes, Becky, yes, there you go. I like that. I'm going to, you can use a small brush, or you could use the non-business end of the brush. You could use that end of the brush to make dots if you want. So if you look at your third panel, so the last one on the right at the top, you can see I've got the white dots in there. And again, to repeat myself, this is an artistic choice. This is a dealer's choice. You can put those in little firefly accents. You can mix colors and say, well, I don't want just white. I want some white in there, and I want some yellow in there because yellow is going to pop. There's no yellow on this at all. I want to mix a little red and white and have some pink in there. I might mix a little yellow and red and put some orange in there. So you've got all kinds of opportunities here in terms of these little color spots, and sprinkle them. I don't think you necessarily want them to be a focal point, but you can, because remember, you the boss, you get to do whatever you want with this. But I'm going to, as I said, I don't want to keep making the same thing all the time. So I think what I'm going to do is do what I just said. I'm going to get a little yellow in here. I'm going to throw mostly some white, but I'm going to actually put a yellow dot or two in here. And I'm actually going to my second paper plate now, because this one's got white and blue and black on it. I feel like I'm going to set this aside. I'm done with that for the time being. And on the side of my other paper plate, I'm going to put a little bit of yellow, not much. Not a bad idea to shake these things up before you open them. Make sure that they are closed before you shake it. And shake the white up a little bit. And I'm not going to use the tail end of the brush, which you can do, but I'm not going to, because, and the reason I'm not going to is because I don't want things to look uniform. And if I use this, and sometimes this is the perfect thing to use. People do this all the time with pottery when they're making like a mandala or doing dot work, because you want them to be uniform. But I'm going to go ahead and use this. And I'm not going to brush stroke. I'm going to daub. So I'm going to get a little bit of white, just a little bit. You can always, it's like adding salt to a stew. You know, you can always add more, but you can't take it out. So use less than you think you might need, put it on and say like, ooh, that was the right amount. It was just a very light touch. So I'm going to just throw, just barely touching. I'm just barely touching. And by now, you know that we want it to be non-uniform, asymmetrical. Okay, that's enough white. I'm going to rinse that out, and I'm going to get some yellow on here, and there's not going to be a lot, because I think the eye will go to them. You know, if I've got, I don't know how many are on here, 15 white dots, if I throw 3 or 4 yellow dots in there, I think that's gonna add a nice little contrast because there are gonna be so few of them. If there were as many white dots, I think it just, oh, there's more dots and they're kind of an equal number of yellow dots and white dots. That's not what I want. I want these to stand out. And now my question is, where do I put them? If I'm only putting 3 or 4 on there, where do I want them? That one there. I'm done. That's it. I'm done with my background. Ta-da! I don't get a medal, but that's a stage, you know, because now I'm gonna get the hair dryer out and I'm gonna hit this so it's dry. And one of the best guides to this is not necessarily touching it, but you hold it up to the light. And when it's not wet, you'll see the difference. You'll know a wet canvas from a dry canvas or a wet spot from a dry spot when you hold it up at the angle to the light and you can see like, oh, there's just nothing coming back there. It's not bouncing light. So I don't want to do that if I can be of help to someone else who is elsewhere in the process. So can I help in any way before I start drawing my background? Does anybody need some guidance? Becky, I like what you got there.
Sorry. Thanks.
See,
You like that, Becky?
I think so.
Good.
The 2-year-old says that she could use some guidance. She said, I do.
How can I help?
It's the 3-year-old needs some guidance.
Don't eat the paint. That's all I need to tell you. Keep the paint out of your mouth. That's all you need to know at this stage of the game. Can I? Well, for those of you that are just kind of, you know, following along and going from step to step to step, you don't need me telling you anymore unless you pose a question. So I'm going to go ahead and mute so you don't hear my hair dryer, and I'm going to get my background dry. Okay? And if because I'm going to be muted, please put a question in chat or something, which Becky or Joan will see if you have questions, but I'm going to mute so that you don't hear my hair dryer as I'm drying the background here. So I'll see you in a couple of minutes. This is a time for a potty break or getting another beverage or refreshing your snack tray or whatever, in addition to drying. And let's plan on being back here in, I don't know, 5 minutes? If you're back in 2 minutes because yours is dry, you don't need to wait for me. You can just jump into the next stages here. You can see what they are. It really is the 4th panel. Sometimes I take all these pictures and I think like, how is the 3rd panel different than the 4th panel? You know, this versus this. There really isn't much difference. So that's the next thing we're going to do once we get this background dry, is we're going to go ahead and make our red field, if we're choosing red, and I think most of us will, but we're going to go ahead and get our red field. Okay, so enough chatter. I'm going to fire up the hairdryer and I'm going to mute this while I can. Becky, can you mute me? I mean, I can take my volume down, but Becky, if you like.
Yep, I muted you.
Mine is ugly.
No.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
the places where your paint is really kind of thick, like more globby places, will take longer to dry. So you can either take a brush and kind of push a dry brush onto those to take a little of that excess globbiness off, or you can just keep drying it. It won't take too long.
Oh, good.
On your own, yes.
There's like paint all over the- Okay. Hey kiddos, look at me, smile. Bad luck, so I can see you. Good job.
I'm gonna grab my hand right here. Driving away. Driving all the way. Driving down the way. Loud. Faster. Can you like this? Right. I'm gonna like that. How that hurt? Yeah. Okay, we're not gonna do it so hard. Charlie. Ada, you want to do the fighting game? Come on. Can you do the fighting game?
Yours is gonna take a while, Ellie, because there's so much paint on it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Joan made a good point. Depending on how much paint you slathered on there or not, you know, you still may be drying things, but if you look at the template, we are going to do red next. And again, I'll just kind of stick with red because I like the idea of hearts and balloons and flowers, all meeting in a lovely place. And that does not go to the bottom of the canvas. So if you were daubing black and blue at the bottom, just be mindful that, yeah, in a perfect world, you want that dry, perfectly dry. But if you really feel like, man, I want to start painting some more, you can start daubing some red at the top of the canvas, in the upper portion of the canvas. I say top. I mean, I'm just leaning over and grabbing one here. You can see, I mean, that really is, if that's the midline, that is, everything there is above the midline of the canvas. So if this were still, if there were a little couple of spots here that were still wet, that would not be an issue. If you want to wait till it's completely dry and keep drying it, that's fine too. But again, there's no brush strokes here. None of this is brush strokes. This is an exercise in daubing tonight. This was too, and this is as well. And you can see there's no symmetry to that. There's really no symmetry at all. The idea being, we're not going to map a heart right exactly on red. There's a lot of red here. There's the heart there. Okay, so we're not going to try to map this, you know, every heart on top of red. We're going to go ahead and make an interesting red color field and play with it. I mean, start here and then go out. Okay, come down a little bit in one spot and say, oh, should I bring another part down? Go up and say, oh, I went off the top of the canvas. Should I do that elsewhere? I chose not to here. I went up once, I got very close here, but I didn't go up over top. Here I went off the edge. Here I went off the edge. I think that adds interest.
And you added some black too, right?
Right. So this is actually two colors. Joe made a good point. If you can see this, you know, and I got to fight the glare there, but if you see this, there's black in there. Okay, so what I did is I used red with just the teeniest bit of black in it, because this is not the red right out of the bottle. This has got a teeny bit of black in it, because I wanted it not quite brick red or cougar crimson, but I wanted it, I didn't want it just bold, bright red. So I had a tiny bit of black into it. I daubed it on, and then I got the teeniest bit of black on my brush and daubed it in here. And you can see that pretty well, places like this, okay? And again, I think that adds interest. It breaks up the uniformity of just this. You don't want this color field that's all the same color. It mixes it up, and you can see that it's spotty. It's not uniform. So that all being said, I'm going to go ahead and get my big old trim brush again. And again, you could use the same brush. I've rinsed mine out thoroughly.
Do they have those big white
Some
brushes?
do. Okay.
Use those.
You know, if you've got a real fat white brush that's real bushy, that's the brush that you would use. But you can use this, and I've got this. And so I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to daub. I'm going to start. Let me bring my canvas in. I'm going to start right in here because I know I want hearts in here. And I'm going to follow my own advice. I'm not going to tell you one thing and do something else. I'm going to start in here, and then I'm going to throw some out a little bit. I'm going to come down. I'm going to decide where am I going to go off the edge of the canvas? Is it going to be up here? Is it one place? Is it 4 places at the top? Is it 3 places off the side? I'm going to make that decision in the moment as I'm doing it. Okay, but I'm going to start here with a core area, but this is not going to be completely red here necessarily. I might leave a little void because I think that creates interest. I might leave a couple of voids where a big mass, but a couple little vacations, I think painters call them, where you missed a spot,
That sounds like
a little vacation,
what's his name?
okay? I hope I'm not over explaining this, but I'm gonna turn away and get some red paint on my plate. And I'm gonna put a drop or two of black in it. And then I'm going to daub. I'm shaking this red up because I haven't used it yet. I'm gonna shake it up, make sure it's nice and mixed. Get it on my plate. I got a new plate. I don't know if you can see how much that is, but you know, that's I don't know. I don't know how big that is. And it may or may not be enough, but I'll start there and I can always add more. Okay, and I'm just a teeny bit of black. Remember, I'm not putting the black on it. I mean, I'm getting red on my brush. I'm just daubing my brush into the red. Now I'm gonna pick up, just lightly touch this into the black, lightly. And now I'm going to and if you can see that, you can see that we've got some color there. You can see the black in there. That's quite thick. That's quite thick, and that's going to take a while to dry. So I'm probably going to not add any more paint to this brush, do that elsewhere, and then come back and hit this again, because I don't want those big blobs. Okay, they add depth. I mean, really, they add thickness, but I'm going to go ahead and daub around, and I'll come back to that. Maybe. I'm going to set this on the bottom of the easel now because the bottom of the easel is dry. The bottom of the canvas is dry. I'm going to move this closer, and I'm going to grab my canvas, as I like to do, and I'm going to move out from the center here. Looks like I need a little bit more black on my brush because I used it all on the first go round. So there we get some black in there.
Love that color.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to get a little.
Show us what they're doing.
Yeah. We'd like to, it'd be nice to be able to see. So I just did that as an experiment. That right there is straight up unmixed red, because I want you to see that versus the other. Okay. And I'm not going to go, because I really like the fact that I got some white and blue up top there, because that really shows motion. It shows forward motion, upward motion. Upward motion is what I meant to say, not forward. Upward motion. And I'm not going to leave this like that completely. I may get a little darker spot in there, but again, we don't want it to be uniformly the same darker red. So we're going to mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to leave that. I kind of see a face there. I kind of see like a scowling face. So that's weird. There's the eye. There's kind of the mouth. It's like looking at clouds. Anyway, I just wanted you to see what unmixed red would look like. And I'm going to go ahead and put this down and daub some more. Joan is here ready to answer every question you might have, so please feel free to pose your questions
Ask people to show us what they do.
and maybe let us see what you're doing.
Okay, Noel, you should show us yours. It's show and tell time. Everybody can see mine, so.
It's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nice, Becky. Thank you. Yeah, let's see what people got. What you got?
And I can see somebody in the Reynolds family on this side.
What'd you say?
I said I can see somebody's painting on this side of the table in your family. Looks good.
We're all letting them dry just a little bit longer, but
Yes, indeed.
Oh, that looks great.
And-
Annette. Oh, very nice.
And-
Oh, very nice, Noel.
And we're gonna
I
need
love
to
it.
let this dry. This is gonna be hair dryer time again before we sketch in the hearts. But
There, can you see that?
I
Becky?
could stop.
Yeah, that looks great. I like the fullness of it, Noel. It almost looks like a big red cloud. I love it.
I don't know.
I could very easily stop with my red. I'm gonna pull back here so you can see my entire canvas. I'll try to move it that way. I'll try to tilt it like that.
Well, that looks cool.
You know, so you can see I left a little space in the middle. There's a couple little gaps here, which was by intent. But there's no wrong way to do this, really. I mean, yes, there is a wrong way to do this. The wrong way to do this is to have that critical voice saying, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. You know, that's the wrong way to do this. You ignore that voice. Because that voice is never satisfied, it's never happy. Just try to give yourself permission to just kind of say, hey, I'm just daubing paint on. There's no right or wrong here. I'm just having some fun. I'm gonna mix up some fun colors. I may go back and look at it and say, you know what? I need some orange dots on that thing. I've got yellow and white. I'm gonna throw some orange in there. I'm gonna drop some red dots into the field down here. These are all kind of playing with paint that you should be doing. Just having some fun playing with paint. Okay. I'm gonna put mine down and just look at it for a little bit to decide whether I'm actually done with the red or whether I'm gonna throw some more red on there. Joan, what do you think? I like that. We've got some white up here that you can see here and some dark blue. I like that movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting the way, depending on how much you fill in. I mean, right now it looks like it could be like a bushy tree, like a bushy red tree in the background.
Uh-huh.
If you fill it in more, like I said to Noel, it looks more like, you know, a fiery cloud in the background.
Uh-huh.
So I think it kind of depends on what look you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the bright red for a change
I
that you
was.
have on the right side.
Uh-huh.
I kind of like that.
Uh-huh.
Not two bits.
I was okay. Well, you're kind of reading my mind. I thought I want this is here. I don't want to say balance it, but I want to get a little of that there.
I like that.
I'm done. I'm not leaving. Bye, everybody. I'm not done in that respect, but I'm done with the red right now. I'm gonna let that. What I'm gonna do is get up and get myself a LaCroix. Then I'm gonna come back and hit it with the hair dryer. But first things first, I'm gonna get something to drink because I've been yammering for an hour. And then I'm gonna come back and hit this with the hair dryer. And what I do know, I mean, when all this is said and done, and I feel like I'm finished, everything can be dry. I've got my hearts painted. I've signed it. I've done everything. I could say, you know what? I'm gonna throw some X up here. X meaning I'm gonna throw some red that's got some blue in it. So I got a little bit of a maroon. I'm gonna put some more reddish black in. I'm gonna put some more unmixed red in. I could do that when the entire thing is dry and for all intents and purposes looks finished. It's finished when I decide it's finished, I guess is what I'm saying, is that I could feel like it's done and I could come back 2 days from now and say, no, I'm gonna add this, or I'm gonna add that. Tomorrow morning, you look at it and say, ooh, I wanna add, you get the idea. All right, I'm gonna go get something to drink. Do you want anything, honey? Okay, I'll be right back. And then I'm gonna hit the dryer. Do you want to dry that? Well, sure. You do.
Don't forget to let us know if you have any questions.
I almost hit my head on that again. Remember last summer when I
Again, if you feel like it's taking a long time to dry, you can dab a little of the paint off of it and just put a lighter touch on there and then it'll dry faster. You can always add, yeah, with the dry brush. And you can always add more layers. So if it feels like it's not red enough, you can add another layer. Just don't put it on too thick and then it'll dry faster. For example, sorry, you okay if I do this to your painting?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So it doesn't really change the color of it. It just makes it not quite so thick.
And that's with a dry brush, right?
Yep, with a dry
With
brush,
any dry brush you have. Could be a small one,
a clean one.
a clean. Clean dry brush. Yeah.
And always put your dirty brushes in the water when you're not using them, otherwise they dry out. And then they can't be used anymore.
I saw CJ came on video. Were you saying this to a painting?
If you were, we missed it. Is that dry enough? You need more?
Mostly. I missed it. All right. Cool. All these people outside, I'm jealous.
I see some dancing going on in one of these groups.
Oh, Becky's got some help. Oh, yeah. Becky's got some
Beautiful.
help,
I love that,
yes.
Annette. That's gorgeous. Both of them.
Say the name again.
Huckleberry.
Huckleberry. Hey, Huck. So again, people put paint on in different thicknesses. What you really want is, you know, as long as it's not shiny when you look at it. What I think I'll do, because the rest of this is very straightforward. I'll talk about the next steps, knowing that some people are still going to be drying perhaps. And I also know that some people are way ahead of us and they're already painting hearts, flowers, balloons. I think what you're doing is really kind of striking a balance between, you know, what am I painting here? Am I painting flower stems? Am I painting strings coming off the, you know, the end of a balloon? And I think I lean toward more like strings, more like heart balloons. And I want to show you, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this or not, but this was done with a permanent marker. The hearts and the stems, strings, were not done with paint. That is a permanent marker. And that is, you can see that they're uniform thickness in terms of the lines. What you could also see importantly is that hearts overlap, hearts run off, you know, where there's no paint. You can see that. This is what you get to play with this, but you know, you can see this heart here overlaps, is overlapped by two others. This one comes off the edge of the canvas. Let me do that so you can see that better. I'm just fighting with the glare from this light, sorry. But you can see that coming off the end there. So again, you don't want things to be predictable. You don't want things to necessarily be uniform. You want them to be different sizes. You want some to overlap. You want others not to. You want some to go off the edge of the canvas. You want some to be lopsided. You know, make this interesting. And that's, in my mind, that's some of the ways that you make it interesting, is that you make it so that they're not carbon copies of each other. Okay. Now, you can use a permanent marker or not. If you don't want to use a permanent marker, was used on this one. It was not used on this one. This was done with the finest brush you have. And it was done with black paint. Okay. If you look at this, you can see very few of the hearts are overlapping. This was a different artistic choice. You can see.
They overlap, but you can't see the lines behind them. Right?
Yeah, well.
These overlap, but you don't see.
Oh,
the
you don't see
string
the
going
string,
through
right?
it.
But I'm talking about the actual heart itself. None of these hearts are overlapping over the others. So I would say for here, this string coming down, you don't necessarily want it to draw the string through the heart. Okay, I would say that's a choice that I would not make. The string coming off this heart, I'm not running it through here. I'm picking it up here and saying, oh, it continues, and the eye connects that. Okay, the eye connects this with this. It's gonna, okay. All right, the eye connects this with this. I don't think you need to paint lines across the heart. In fact, another artistic choice. I'm not gonna make that choice, you can. But I'm gonna go ahead and start with the finest brush that I have. Again, coming back to my salt and the stew analogy, you know, you can always add more paint, but you can't very easily take it away. So get a very small amount on the finest brush that you have. And I'm gonna get a
very
fresh
light
plate.
touch.
I'm gonna get a fresh plate. Honey, where did the very finest brush go that was here? Did it
It's
go
right
away? Oh, well, I didn't know. It's in the water.
No.
I didn't know that. Okay, you want to find a different one, please? Okay,
Light touch.
so I've got two words, light touch. Very light touch, very light touch. And now we're not daubing, we are drawing. There's a piece of chalk in everybody's supplies. You can, and for a reason, you can actually take that chalk and you can actually sketch the heart with the chalk, and the chalk will wipe off. You can paint over the chalk, you can paint next to it, but it will wipe off when everything is bone dry. You can hit this with a rag and all the chalk will disappear. I don't use chalk when I do this anymore because it's free form. As I've been saying for the last 3 minutes, you know, the hearts being overlapping, different sizes, lopsided, you know, I think they're going to be so free form that I'm not worried about sketching with a piece of chalk. I think I'll use this one.
Okay,
I think I use this one.
okay.
So the finest brush that you have, and what I like to do is I like to, when I get some paint on my brush, I like to roll the brush on my plate. That just tightens up the bristles. So if they're splayed a little bit, what I'm doing is I'm tightening them up. Okay, so I'm just rolling this and saying like, okay, that's fairly tight. I'm gonna go ahead and do a heart. What I will tell you is this, because I'm a righty, I'm gonna start on the left side of my canvas, upper left, and I'm gonna move left to right, top to bottom. And the reason for that is simple physics. I don't want my hand to be over wet paint. And since I'm a righty, if I start in the upper left and I move right, my hand will never be over that first heart that I paint because I'm a righty and it's in the upper left. So I have found following that kind of process to be helpful in that I'm not dragging my sleeve across anything. Don't be afraid to really get your hand close like that if you want. You know, you can get your hand way up near the tip. You can grab this. You can take this canvas off the easel, set it in your lap, and just really kind of lean into it like this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I have so little paint. Can you see that? I have so little paint on my brush that I've got a couple of vacations in there, which is fine. Like I said, you know, I can always add paint to the brush. I can't take it away. So I'm going to put a little more paint on the brush. And I'm going to come back to that. And I'm going to finish that heart. Okay. What I suggest you do, what I would encourage you to consider is drawing all your hearts first, and then you draw your, we'll call them stringy stems or stemmy strings, because we know we're not gonna, I know I'm not going to draw stringy stems through hearts. They are going to they're going to imagine they're behind the heart. So I'm gonna get all my hearts first, And then I will draw my strings. And if you look at your template, where is it? If you look at this, they're not uniform. They all don't go to the ground. What I don't think you want to do is say that every one of these that I paint, here's a good example. You can see these stop at different places. They all don't go off the bottom edge of the canvas. In fact, none of them do. Maybe it would have been good to have one or two do that, just to, again, so nothing is uniform. But these could end, you could have a string that ends here, another string that ends here, another string that goes off the bottom of the canvas. So keep in mind, again, this recurrent motif of you add interest by adding variety. Okay. I hope that helps. I'm going to get more black paint on my canvas. Joan, you want to paint some of these hearts?
Sure.
Honey, let me paint a heart and then you paint some hearts.
You're better.
Okay? No. Your heart's bigger than mine. This is the heart of the community. What we're talking about right here. Pullman Regional, that's what we're talking about. And by intent, I had that one come down and not meet at a point, like this one met at a point, and I thought, okay, this is another way of adding variety and interest, is I'm not going to make them all end at the point. Remember, I'm going to have a little stringy stem coming down here anyway. Okay, so I'm going to hand the brush and the canvas to my wife and collaborator here, and she's going to paint some hearts.
moving over here?
You're moving over here. You're moving over here.
All right.
All right.
Go in the other direction though, because I'm a lefty.
You're gonna, okay, that's
I
right.
don't know.
Tell people that.
I'm a lefty.
She's a
I
lefty.
don't know. I might have to do something different, but we'll see.
She's good.
No.
No. Okay.
All right, here we go. It's a little scary.
She's just playing. She's bold. She always charges into things. She's a woman of action.
Yeah, but
But she wants to stand up. Why not?
because I can't get at it.
I grabbed it and put it in my lap. Joan is standing up because that's easier for her. Oh, honey, those are beautiful hearts.
He's funny. And it's okay if, there's a couple little spots of red that are a little bit wet. It's okay.
Indeed.
And especially because we're painting black, black tends to go well over other things. If I was painting white over the red and it wasn't completely dry, you would then have pink. But this works out okay. And if your brush doesn't have enough paint on it and it comes out a little bit lighter than you wanted it to, you can just go right over the previous line. Do you want me to keep doing?
Yeah. I think you should do 9 hearts.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I did the first 2.
Oh, I should do 9.
I'd love for you to do 9 hearts. Or 6 hearts, because we've been together 6 years. How's that?
You're really sappy in front of all these people.
I don't care. Oh, I like that.
You can even make your hearts go around the edge of your canvas if you want.
Why don't you show people what you need? And then grab it and hold it close to the phone when you do that.
And you can also, depending on the pressure you put on your canvas, how hard you press the brush against your canvas, you'll get different kind of widths of your strokes. So if you put very light touch, it'll be a thin line. If you put a heavier touch, it'll be a thicker line. So if you want to have your heart go off the edge of your canvas, you can either just do it like this, so it's just looks like it's going off, or you can actually wrap it around the canvas. If you want, I don't know, can you see that? Yeah. Okay, so you can actually wrap it around the canvas. And this would be even cuter if we had had the red around there too, but you
Yeah.
get the idea.
See what I mean? I told you she was so creative. Like, what a great idea. Let me move that so that doesn't get spilled.
Maybe your hearts want to be fatter hearts, like big puffy balloons. It's very quiet.
I put lots of hearts.
What's that?
That looks good, Becky.
Hearts.
I hope everybody's having fun.
Yeah, that's a good time. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of a thing when you're doing these remotely. Sometimes we have, back in the day when we didn't have a global pandemic, we had 50 or more people in our studio with everybody painting at the same time. It's a little bit of a different dynamic. I lost.
And for everybody who was doing this, there'd be, for every 10 people doing this, there'd be 3 people who were painting their dog or a lighthouse or a mountain scene or a starlit sky. The number of people who just did fun things that were different was really, it was encouraging, because we felt like people were taking us at our word in terms of do what you want.
Yeah, this is all about following your muse.
Wherever that muse takes you. Oh, you don't have to do 9, honey.
More, less? Can't do less.
It's up to you. You can't do less. I'm doing more.
Okay.
All right. So this is how we're different. Joan didn't overlap any of hers. Maybe that's because she knew that I was gonna step in and do my thing here. And I'm gonna start with the overlapping. Where shall I begin though? Let's see. And you know, she was standing up because she's a lefty and it was easier for her. I've got this in my lap again. I just like having that kind of control. It didn't overlap very much, but a little bit. Little bit to figure out where. Okay, this one's going here. And again, uniformity is not your friend, in my opinion, in terms of size and shape. Yeah, if you're done, please take a picture. Yeah, Joe made a comment. Some people are done. If you're done, please take a picture of this and share it with Becky, and Becky will probably share it with us. That'd be wonderful.
And show it to us.
And show it to us. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, if you got the drift here and you're ready to move on and paint your strings, you don't have to feel like you have to wait for Donald to get to that point. So
Right,
feel free to move ahead at your pleasure.
indeed. Indeed.
We do want to see what people are doing, so make sure you turn your video on or turn your paintings around. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm gonna pin Noel's so we can see it. Oh, I love it.
Let's see. Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
I
I
like the yellow in there.
yes, 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 yes. Oh, that really captures the eye.
Oh, it's great. Are you happy with it? Love it. I'll have to figure out-
Well, I keep taking my own advice by putting just a tiny bit of paint on the brush, and I have to keep going back and putting more on it, but that's okay. That's okey dokey smoky. I have such a hard time getting the orientation where I'm trying to get it aligned towards the camera and not where it's picking up the glare. And it's like, which direction to tip it? And go this way. Yes. Okay. And to take it back some distance. At this distance, you can't even see that I've got some yellow color spots in there unless you look really, really closely, you know what you're looking for. But I'm not blowing my own horn, but I really like the white that comes through here and that couple of the dark blue. I really, that just adds a nice touch to me, to my eye.
Yeah, I agree.
For those of you who look at that and say like, oh yeah, that's a good idea and I didn't do it. You could do it when all the hearts are all dry. You could say, I want to go put something up there. Play with it.
Trying to
All
figure-
right, I'm gonna put a big honking heart
So
right.
Becky's saying something.
What's that, Becky?
Oh, I was just trying to post a photo of mine, but apparently I don't know how.
We can-
I'll email it to you.
Okay,
It looks great from what we can see from here.
what's Huck think?
He left me a long time ago.
Oh,
He's in the yard.
neat,
His favorite place to
neat.
be, in the grass,
Okay.
looking for bunnies.
Yeah. They do that.
Yes.
They do that. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what I want here.
I see the Reynolds family has situated the camera, so the kids' paintings are towards us and their paintings are not.
Oh, man.
Yeah, come on,
Sneaky.
Michelle, we want to see yours.
Yeah, come on.
Maybe she can't hear us.
She's pretending
Or
she
she's
can't hear us.
ignoring
Yeah,
us.
she's ignoring us, yeah.
Oh, I love this, Annette. Very nice. Can
Thank
you?
you.
If you
This is my
speak-
son here. He's still working on his.
Oh, they're gorgeous. I'm gonna put it in speaker view. Can you speak again so that we can see it big on the screen?
This is my son's,
Oh, nice.
and he's still finishing his touches, and then
Oh,
this
look
one's,
at that.
That
I
looks
kinda
I
great.
like
love
to
the
poke it out a bit.
variety.
yeah.
Look at that. I love the variety.
It almost
Thank
looks
you.
a little bit like, what do you call that? In the background, like a landscape, like the buildings? What's that called?
I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking about.
Like, almost like a silhouette of buildings in the background or something. It's kind of cool.
I
Love
love,
that.
look how creative that is. Love
Yeah.
that.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Great colors in that one too.
I think I'm done with my hearts. I think I'm gonna go ahead and paint some stringy stems or some stemmy strings, whatever you want to call it. Again, taking my own advice, I'm gonna mix it up. Some are gonna go to the bottom, most won't. They will not look uniform, I promise. And I will squiggle them differently too. Some will be more straight. Some will be way squiggly. Okay, that one's coming off the bottom of the canvas. Some could come off like there's a wind blowing, you know, you could have the string come off like that, like it's a wind blown, almost looks like a kite, the tail of a kite now. So now we're mashing up flowers and balloons and hearts and kites. we're playing. That's the idea. We're playing with paint. At least that's what I'm trying to do. Okay.
Are we still on, Becky? Are we still on?
Yes.
Okay, I left to go to the bathroom, so I didn't want to miss anything.
We're still doing this.
Love it.
I know I'm looking at it. That's not what I'm gonna do.
I like it.
Okay, version number, however many versions we have here. I think I showed you 4 earlier. This is 5 now. And I like elements of all of them. I like elements of all of them. I'm a great believer in it's easy to go with too much of a good thing, and it's easy to go too far, like, oh, I like that, let me add more of that, and then it's like, oh, what was I thinking? That was too much. So I'm just gonna not do anything with this for a minute or two. I'm just gonna let it sit. I'm gonna get up off my chair, actually, and move a distance away from it, because I'm not been up close and personal with this thing. I've actually had it in my lap, holding it, resting against my thigh while I was painting some of those hearts. I'm going to get up and go across the studio, and take a look at it and say, what's it look like from 5 feet away? What's it look like from 20 feet away? What pops? What doesn't? What looks like could make it more interesting? How? You get my drift. Is I'm going to put some distance, put a little bit of time, a minute or two, between my last painting and what I might do next, and I'm going to put some physical distance. I'm going to get up and walk away from it, and see what it's telling me. So I'll be right back. Take a little walk.
There it goes. Colors way more turquoisey than it was in some of the other ones. Looks good. Every time it's a new thing.
Every time it's new, and the thing that I like the most about it, is this. That's my favorite element of the whole thing.
The white.
That little white there, because it's unexpected. I mean, I look at all of this and it's like, oh, look, what is that one doing there? Well, I like that. I like the fact that we've got them splashed up here. There's a little something here you can see. It's a little white there. But I like this. I like this down here. When I stepped away from it, I was like, oh, I like that. So I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to put any more hearts in. I'm not going to fiddle around with it anymore. Knowing when to stop is critical. Because I'm done doesn't mean you need to be done, obviously. I'll repeat something that Joan said earlier, and this is critical, is that we want all these brushes to come back to their little home here in our studio, and we want to be able to use them again. And we can only do that if you have cleaned them thoroughly. So they should be in water now. If it's not in your hand, it should be in water, keeping it soft. And then when when you're done painting, we're going to ask you to go to your sink and under running water, really clean the heck out of these things so that we can use them again. Everything will come back to us except the plates, the paper plates, obviously, and your lovely work of art. But everything else will come back to us, go back to Becky, and then comes back to us. With your fine brush that you did your hearts with, do not hesitate to sign your work or date it or something. I mean, you could do that in the back, you could do that on the edge, you could do that on the corner. Artist's choice, obviously, but that's something for you to consider. So I'm done with mine. I'm done with mine. Questions, comments, concerns? I'd like to see what other people have done. What we've seen so far has been fun.
Yeah.
And you don't, and Joan's saying, people can leave when they need to leave. It doesn't need to be a formal sign off. It's like when you're done, if you need to go, you've got to put kids to bed or you've got to walk the dog or whatever, then just, thank you for joining us. But you don't need us to kind of officially sign off. That all being said, Becky, what do you see as next steps? Do you want to put a time limit on this and say, we're going to check out here in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15? What are your thoughts? And let people finish on their own, because I think guidance from us at this stage, I don't feel like is critical. What do you want to see happen?
Yeah, I think at this point, people can finish on their own, and really appreciate how much fun this was. And I have my very first painting.
Yay.
Great.
Yay. Good for you. Good for you. That does not go in the basement, remember, or the garage.
Yeah, so all of the supplies, just for everyone else who's on, if you could return them to the bins that I've put in the vestibule at the front entrance of the hospital. There's some like Rubbermaid bins there that you can put all of your supplies in. It'd be great to get those back by Monday, but the sooner the better. Yeah, thank you so much, Donald and Joan, for all your help with this and for everything else this week. I think we've all had a lot of fun and I've touched on that creative side that maybe not all of us use all the time. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but given that you're recording this, if something came up for a family that had every intention of painting tonight, and they don't have to turn the materials in until Monday, maybe those folks could be given a heads up, like, by the way, there's a recording, if you're going to paint tomorrow morning or Sunday afternoon or something, and still get the goodies back to us on Monday. I'm just throwing that out there as a thought that occurred to me, for those folks who something came up or they double scheduled or something or whatever happened. That's perfectly fine with the recording. So thank you for recording this.
I will send out an email tomorrow to all of the participants, just a reminder of where to return the materials and a link to the video and
Right, right.
Yep.
Well, I think we're going to sign off. Thank you, everyone who joined us. Thank you, particularly Becky and Noel for all the assistance that I know that you folks have provided in this whole process. I mean, today is not today, but this is the big week, but there've been weeks and weeks and weeks of planning and more on your end, obviously, than ours. But hats off to both of you and everyone who's participated.
yeah.
Our email address is getwildmoscow@gmail.com. So if anybody wants to email us with questions or concerns or something to the effect of, hey, can we do this at my house on the deck? Could you come and do a private party? Pose those questions, just shoot us an email, getwildmoscow@gmail. Send us pictures of what you got directly to that email address or send them through Becky.
Or post them on Facebook.
Or post them on Facebook. In any case, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and the rest of your weekend, everybody.
All right.
Thank you very much for everybody. We
right.
appreciate it. Had fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.